Alrighty then. So, the new season is in, and we've got new masteries to look at first. So, here's what's happened. You guys already saw the video I uploaded for the item changes or some standard jungle changes. We didn't get a lot of information on the masteries. Just today we got a bunch of them, and some of them will affect the jungle considerably. A lot of the keystone masteries, the ones at the very bottom, don't seem to affect the jungle, but only what will happen after the jungle, so you have to keep that in mind. Apparently, what happens now is whenever you put a point into anything, whenever you put a point into anything, it opens up the next tiers, easy as that, and then at the very end, you get to the keystone and you gotta pick one, and it sort of defines your play style a little bit. Then you got enough points to put into other ones, and not really get too far into it. So it's sort of like before you can get into one full tree and a half of the other one, and this is going to make a big difference because there's the utility tree and the is no longer there. The offensive tree and the defensive tree isn't really there either. It's some kind of amalgamation of masteries that prefer certain playstyles. Like I'm gonna assume the one in the middle is the utility one, as you can see runic affinities there. Resolve seems to be the tanking one, and the other on the ferocity all the way to the right is the offensive one. But if you look at the utility one, there's some stuff like savagery, which increases your damage to minions and monsters, basic attacks and single target spells, and uh, where is it? You got some really cool ones in here, like a reduced cooldown reduction or champion kills, dangerous game. Champion kills and assist restore 5% of your missing health and mana. So you got some offensive masteries mixed in there, and some defensive masteries mixed in here, and it's all sorts of things. So as far as things are concerned, there's going to be quite a lot of experimenting to do with these masteries. Uh, for the defensive one, I'm just going to go through it from the top to the bottom and see, just by reading it, not really having experimented too much, which ones I would probably take if I was going full resolve. Between these two, it's bonus armor and magic resistance and health regen per 5 seconds. Both of these are really good, but for the jungle, you want pretty much some sort of static defenses already. 6 bonus percent armor and magic resistance is not a lot early, so this might not actually be too good. Both of these kind of don't help you clear too much, but for the sake of this, I'm going to put 5 points into unyielding so we can get the next one down. Tough skin, you take 2 less damage from champions and monster basic attacks. Basic one, with tough skin, it's going to help you against dealing with monsters, and hell, it even helps you against champions. So they rolled 2 of the same mastery points from before into 1, so it's a really good point you're putting in here. And it obviously opens up the next one right then and there. It's 2 tiers per, I mean, it's 1 tier, 2 tier, and 3 tier in every single mastery. The other one is movement speed in brush and river, which is pretty damn good too, but for some champions you may not want to give up tough skin. Technically, you can get the Explorer too. You can like max out the next one and just go back here and, well, actually no, holy shit, you can't. So you can only pick one tier point. I mean, one end tier point in each one. So that's going to create some reliance on these things. It doesn't matter that much, anyways. This one, bonus to shield and healing on you. I really like runic armor. 8% to all shield and healing on you, including lifesteal and regeneration. So champions with self-sustaining abilities are going to help themselves out quite a bit. If you have a healing team, a shield team, it's going to just help you out even further. So I think this. Someone asked me on Facebook what was my favorite mastery, and I actually said this one's my favorite one because you can just imagine the sort of value you can get from it from certain champions. And then the other one is total health, which is of course going to be useful on some champions. As you can see, I put 5 points. If I put 4 points into this and I put 1 point in this, it opens to the next one. But if I put another one in this one, it lowers the other one. Right. By the way, I'd be taking runic armor on a lot of champions, but you can see the benefit of taking veteran scars on others. The next one is perseverance, 50% health regen, increase to 200% when you're below 20% health. Obviously, for beefy guys with a lot of health and regeneration, it's pretty good. And then the other one is summoner spells have a reduced 15% cooldown. Now, this one is a little bit not going to really help you too much in jungle, even though you might get smite off a little bit faster. It's going to be more for initiators and stuff, so you can have your flash out sooner. or your Ghost if you run Ghost or something. And of course, for laners, it would be good. For junglers, Insight is more for team fights before after the jungle phase. So Insight, I'll be taking that on champions like Malphite and maybe even Zac, even though he's not super reliant on Flash. So this one is a really good one, and it used to be in a utility one, and you used to wish so much that I could easily grab that. Next one is Swiftness. You get, oh, I have to get one of these first. Swiftness, 15%, tenacity, and slow resist. That's really damn good already. Slow resist and tenacity. I wonder if I don't know if they stack together, but that shit is great. It's going to help out a lot of champions who get easily kited. And then the alternative is Legendary Guardian, which gives you 2 armor and magic resistance for every nearby enemy champion. This thing doesn't help you in the jungle whatsoever, and it will help you in team fights later, but I think it's a little bit undervalued, because at most you're going to get 10 armor and 10 magic resistance, compared to the tenacity. Holy shit. Of course, if you're fighting a team with very little CC and stuff, it's not going to make much of a difference. So, take what you need. And then after that, you get Bond of Stone, Strength of Ages, and Grasp of the Undying. Grasp of the Undying. Every 4 seconds in combat, your next attack against an enemy champion steals life equal to 3% of your max health. It's half for ranged champions. This one, I'm a little disappointed in because again, it just kind of helps. It doesn't really help you jungle, but it helps you after. But it'd be really good for tanks. It's some form of damage to just chunk somebody for 3% of their health. So it's a good one. It's just not one that you want for the jungle. Especially when you compare it to the other ones you're gonna see. Siege minions and large monsters that you or nearby allies kill grant you 20 and 10 permanent health respectively, 300 max. After reaching the max health bonus, further nearby siege minion kills restore 100 health. I actually think this one's a bit overrated already, but it's not a bad one. It gives you about a ruby crystal and, well, actually not that much, of health. It's good, but when you compare it to Bond of the fucking Stone, this thing, 4% damage reduction. 4% damage reduction, just like that. While near an ally, this bonus is doubled, and 8% of the damage they will take from champions is dealt to you. Holy fucking shit, Bond of Stone is amazing. It's like, you can pick any jungler, any tank, any fat ass. It doesn't matter if you're not really going to be taking, if you don't have the control to warrant being CC'd down and killed. Just having this and just being really tanky and unkillable means you're soaking up damage. You're a walking aura for your teammates. Bond of Stone is such a cool key mastery. This one, Strength of Ages helps you, get health. Yeah. And it helps you sustain yourself in a lane, but it's not really... It doesn't make me feel all that giddy or anything. It'll help you sustain yourself in the jungle after a really long time, but fucking Bond of fucking Stone. Shit. Imagine being on Alistair. You're not gonna die. Now the next one, Cunning, which I assume is a utility one. You get 3% movement speed out of combat. It's okay. Savagery, basic damage and single target spells against monsters and minions by 5. Mostly gonna take Savagery over Wanderer because the 3% movement speed might not make much of a difference later into the game, but early on it could. Then Secret Stash, it's the same one with your little biscuits, and Runic Affinity. Obviously, this is just kind of up to your choice. Your Runic Affinity will probably end up being the better one most of the time for most champions. Next one is Merciless. Basically gives you execution powers, deal 5% increased damage to champions below 40% health. A beautiful one, obviously. Everybody's like this one. And Meditation. Restore, every 5 seconds regenerate 1.5% of your missing mana. It's going to be great for casters. Not so much for a lot of junglers because there's a lot of means that we're going to have to regenerate our mana at this point. So Merciless is probably going to be what's taken for a lot of champions. Next is Bandit. Gain 1 gold for each nearby minions killed by allied champions. Gain an additional 3 gold or 10 if you're melee when hitting an enemy champion with a basic attack. Not that good for junglers because you're not really fighting a lot of people that early. And Dangerous Game, champion kills and assists, restore 5% of your missing health and mana. Obviously the better choice for a lot of champions. So, Precision, you gain 3 plus 0.3 per level armor and magic penetration. It's obviously a strong one. though it's not as like a powerful early game as it used to be. The other one is you get this one is what's making people go giddy. Your cooldown reduction cap is increased by 5%, and it gives you 5% cooldown reduction off the bat. This is amazing on some champions. Obviously, CC kind of champions are going to want this. They're going to desire this. But you got to think, fucking Bond of Stone. If you get intelligence, you can't get Bond of Stone. So, damn, I'm kind of a little bit divided between these two. This thing, intelligence, is going to be so good on certain champions because that extra 5% cooldown reduction almost halves the cooldown of all their abilities. Of course, though, you have to build into that first to take advantage of it, so it's more of a late game kind of thing. For some champions, you're going to need, you get a Frozen Heart, you're going to need your maybe Warrior or something in there just to get to that 45%. So it's going to be very awkward to try to obtain this. Next is Storm Rider Surge, dealing 30% of a champion's max health within 2 seconds, grants you 35% movement speed for 3 seconds. It's good for ganking on champions like Lee Sin and stuff, so you can get more movement speed. But it sort of feels like it sort of feels like it's not tailored for junglers specifically. Most of the junglers are going to be, well, not, it's going to be obviously for assassins to help them catch up, but for most other junglers, it's not going to be there. Next one is your third attack or spell on an enemy champion shocks the area around them, dealing 10 damage per level, plus 20% of your bonus attack and 10% of your ability power as magic damage to enemies in the area. It's a static shiv. It only works on champions, so it's not going to help you in the jungle whatsoever, and I don't actually think this one's going to be that good on a lot of champions, except a few. So if you're a champion kind of already valued static shiv, then this might actually be good. Wind Speaker's Blessing. Your heals and shields are 10% stronger. Additionally, your shields and heals increase your target's resistances by 15% for 3 seconds when used on an ally other than yourself. Jesus Christ, I love this. It's not a lot of junglers will get to be able to use this, but there will be some supporty type junglers who do have shields and do heal, so this is going to be great. For them, at least. Out of the utility one, probably the one the junglers will take the most will be Storm Raider Surge, but because the other two are way more specific towards champions. Still, though, this is what makes the utility tree not seem as good as a defensive tree, in my opinion. Like this one, the intelligence one, is definitely a really nice mastery thing, but it's going to deny you the keystone mastery of the other two trees. So keep that in mind. Let's see, just to give you an idea, I'll put it all into this one. You see, I can't even fill up the tier 3 one. This is all I get. Well, obviously, this is all I get, 12 and 18. Now, for the offensive one, Ferocity, same one, attack speed right there, bam, 4% attack speed. The next one is increased ability and spell damage plus 2%. It's, well, obviously, this is for auto attackers, this is for casters that rely on ability power, yay. And damage. Next is that double-edged sword from before. Deal 3% bonus damage. Take an additional 1.5%. If you're ranged, you deal 2% and take 2% more. Then the other one is Feast. It's been changed. It now has a 20-second cooldown, and killing something gives you 20 health. Debatably, this is better because you're not constantly killing things and constantly proccing it. So when you're moving between camps or when you're moving from wave to wave or doing whatever, this thing has a chance to cool down and get you 20 health when you kill something. The cooldown is a little bit too high, but it's reasonable for because in the lane it could be abused. Double-edged sword, you take it if you want to kill things, and I guess Feast if you're going in the offensive page for a few points or just because you feel like it. This might end up just being your kind of ad hoc choice. After that, you get Lifesteal and Spell Vamp, 2.5% of it, basic stuff. Not everybody wants it or needs it, but some champions can make good use of it. And Natural Talent, 10 attack damage and 15 ability power at level 18, so scaling on both things. Some champions won't use ability power, some won't use AD, so it's kind of a weird thing that it's there, but it might as well fuse it since it'd be kind of, at this point, wasted to have 2 points just for AD and AP. Then Bounty Hunter, you deal 1% increased damage for each unique enemy champion you kill. I don't exactly know how this works, but I'm gonna, but as the text assume if you kill the enemy Darius, you gain 1% permanently for the rest of the game of damage you deal. If you and afterwards, if you kill the enemy Kindred, it raises to 2% and whatever. So if you were involved in the killing of every member on the enemy team, you get 5% bonus damage. I'm gonna assume that. I'm not quite sure on this one. Oppressor, you deal 2.5 increased damage to targets with impaired movement, slow stuns, that kind of stuff. Basic stuff, alright? They moved that from the defensive tree to this one because I never knew why it wasn't a defensive tree in the first place. Alright. Next thing is Battering Blows. 1.4, well, I put mass points to 7% armor penetration. Big deal. I'm going to assume the next one is Magic Pen, of course. So, your penetration here. You get your double penetration here, and you get an point shoot. All right, so those are the offensive tree is not that like outlandish, except maybe the Bounty Killer, but it's very just just straight out power. Now, Warlord's Bloodlust. Critical strikes heal for 15% of the damage dealt and grant you 20% attack speed for first 4 seconds. 2-second cooldown. Sorry, I was out of breath. So, this one pretty much useless for most junglers. In fact, the majority of junglers won't use this until way later when it's not really useful for killing monsters. It's obviously for team fights and outside of the jungle and all that other crap. But it's funny. This thing will actually work out with Pantheon if you feel like using it. Since he gets a guaranteed crit when enemies get low. Fervor of Battle. Your basic attacks and spells grant you a stack of Fervor for 5 seconds, max 10 stacks. Each stack of Fervor adds 1 to 8 bonus damage to your basic attacks against champions based on your level. It sounded so good until you get to that last part. It doesn't do anything versus monsters from what the text says. So once again, this thing doesn't help junglers whatsoever actually jungle. It's not a big deal really, because you're not supposed to jungle forever. But you get kind of my disappointment. Next one is Death Fire Touch. That's a train, if you can hear that. Your damaging abilities cause enemy champions to take 6 plus 50% of your bonus attack damage and 20% of your ability power and magic damage over 3 seconds. Area of effect and damage over time abilities apply half of this damage over 1.5 seconds instead. Alright. Again, basic stuff. It only works on enemy champions. So this, again, isn't really for junglers. And it's not really a bad thing either. So it is essentially applies a burning syphilis to the enemy team. So as far as things that actually work in the jungle, Strength of the Ages technically works, but it's not, I don't think, big of a deal in most champions. Bond of Stone is just too good to pass up, in my opinion. Storm Raider Surge does nothing. It's against champions. This one doesn't do anything. This one might do stuff again on yourself, right? Your heals and shields are 10 stronger if you're using it yourself, but again, it depends on the champion. So really, the only Keystone Mastery that seems to do anything is Strength of Ages. The other ones don't really do anything to the jungle. So anyways, these masteries, I think, at least in this way, it makes it easier to balance, because now it doesn't have the masteries aren't so fluffy. There's not a lot of these wasted mastery points. If I was going to go a tank jungler, I would usually just probably go with Unyielding first, just to test it out. On some, I would probably want health regeneration. I would go with Unyielding. I'd go Tough Skin. I'd want to go Runic Armor, but some champions will probably prefer Veteran Scars. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go Recovery instead of Unyielding, just because the jungler I'm going to play might make better use of that. On this one, I'll likely go Perseverance. Legendary Guardian is... It's kind of disappointing in a lot of ways, so I'll go with Swiftness. And then Bond of Stone. And hell, it has stone in it. I have to bond with this mastery. And then I have pretty much 12 points to put into any of these, so this is going to be a toss-up as to what you want. The one I'm going to clear the jungle with first, or at least experiment, can't really make use of a lot of these things. So right now I'm just looking at these points. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the sorcery. I'm gonna go with the double-edged sword, and vampirism just seems so weird. And I'll go with this one just because it seems like the champion I'm gonna be using.